As always, I invite you in the chat to say where in the physical world you are and how you're doing. Otter, okay. They're telling me something about some new Zoom feature, which I don't need. Artificial intelligence. Welcome, welcome, welcome. I think people are still joining us. And if you haven't already, at the top right-hand corner, you can decide what kind of view you want. So if you want to just have speaker view, then you can see me, you can choose that. Or if you want gallery view, you can choose that and then see lots of other faces. New Jersey, Pennsylvania, New York, North Carolina, Iowa, lots of snow there, Buffalo, Austin, Michigan, Maine, Colorado, Kent, UK, Windsor, UK, welcome, welcome. Vancouver, Melbourne, Australia, welcome. Ecuador, I was just thinking about Ecuador this morning. I hope things are okay there. I don't know if it's just the news that happened to come across my stream this morning, but yeah. Crazy, crazy times we are living in. So we'll wait 2 more minutes and then we will officially begin. Okay. It's great to hear from you all. And a little bit of housekeeping. I'll just do. Looks like people are still coming in. And well, it looks like people are still joining, so we'll wait. So I will send the recording to everybody who signed up. So that will take me a little bit of time to process, but I will send it out to everyone who signed up. So if you cannot be here for the whole session, don't worry, I will send it out. But I think it's something really special about being here in real time together. So let's officially begin. And if you have worked with me before, I'm Nadia Colburn. Some people might be new to me. And I'm really glad to be here with you. I'm going to just try to mute everyone again. I hear some kind of murmurations in the background. I'll do a little bit of introduction in a few moments, but let's start by taking a breath together. This time is for you, and I know how precious your time is. So I invite you to really honor your own time, your own body, your own presence as I honor your being here. And we'll take a breath together. Put your hand on your heart if you want. And so much of writing is about being present for and with ourselves. So I really want you to get comfortable in yourself for this hour that we are together, and to honor yourself for taking this time and being here. So as I said, I am Nadia Colburn. I am here in Cambridge, Massachusetts, and I am a poet, a memoir writer, a teacher, a yogi, a meditation teacher, an activist, a mother, and I think that one of the things that I used to struggle with was how to bring all of those different parts of myself together. And what I found is that when I'm really aligned in myself, that they don't feel like different. They feel all connected. And that's what I'm hoping for you, that whatever your writing practice is can feel connected and to be an integral part of yourself and all the different parts of yourself moving forward. So what we're going to do is I'm going to just talk a little bit, just a little bit of introduction, and then I'm going to leave you in some meditation and prompts so you can set intentions for your own writing. And then I'll just talk a little bit more, and then there'll be time for questions and answers. So just to kind of set the stage, as you're going through this whole hour together, I invite you to stay in that space that you entered when I rang the singing bowl. So I'll ring it again. Just, you can feel that. Try to see if you can feel that kind of groundedness and connection with yourself. And just notice how what I'm going to be saying lands in your body, and notice what feels comfortable, what feels uncomfortable, and use that to kind of gauge your way forward. So as we set our intentions for our writing, and when I say our writing, I mean really any creative project that you have, and you can also connect your writing to anything else in your life. But when we set our intentions, I think it's helpful to clear away some myths that many of us subconsciously carry because they're really deeply held cultural myths. So the first is that creativity is just for a few people. There are a few creative people, and you have to kind of earn your way into that space. The second myth is that creativity is kind of a luxury and an extra. First, you need to do all the quote unquote important work, and then you can have time for creativity. And the third is that creativity is kind of a spontaneous outpouring that just happens, like lightning striking, and you just kind of wait around, did it happen to me or not? So I want to dispel those myths. Creativity is not just for a few. I really truly believe that each of us as a human being is a creative being. That's our birthright, just the way we speak, the way we move, the way we love, the way we need respect. Creativity is part of who we are as human animals. And therefore, it's not an extra. It's one of those things that we need kind of built into our lives. That said, it's also not something that just like spontaneously happens like lightning. So it's really important to find how it fits into your life. And in traditional societies, creativity was a part of everyday life. People would sit around the fire, they would they would knit or create clothing and have designs on them. They would dance, they would sing, and they would tell stories. This was just built into everyday life. So I think we're kind of impoverished in our culture. Even if you are a creative writer and spend a lot of time doing it, I just feel like many people that I talk to, it's like not fully integrated. So that brings me to the fourth myth, which is that creativity is something that happens kind of from the head up, something that happens in our thinking mind. We need to think about it. And if you've worked with me before, you know that I really believe that creativity comes in our body, in our mind, and that when we bring mind and body together, spirit rushes in. So that we really want to open up to that full human experience for our creative life. So just take a moment and see how that lands with you, how it feels in your body, because this is going to be a big year, 2024, and I hope it's full of a lot of exciting, wonderful things that we as a group are all going to create and manifest. And I'm pretty sure it's also going to be full of some tumultuous things. There's a lot happening in the world. So we need to both ground down and root up. So take a moment now and just feel your feet, feel that grounding energy. Feel your crown. Take your energy away from the kind of like thinking mind up between that third eye, between the eyes and the crown of your head, that kind of higher consciousness. And see if you can come into this session from both the rooting through the feet and that higher consciousness. And from that place, I'm going to be inviting you to vision what it is that you want to be creating, what you want to be partaking in, what you want to be making, and to see yourself as someone like with a bow and arrow looking forward towards what it is that you want to hit your mark. Maybe you don't know, that can be part of the process too. But I invite you to allow yourself to dream big, to imagine big, and to be unapologetic. So let's begin with a little meditation. I'm going to lead you in a meditation that's going to raise some heat, and it's breath of fire. So you're going to be panting like a dog on a hot day with your mouth closed though. So a dog would be, but you're going to do it with your mouth closed. And you're going to be pumping the navel center. And we're going to just do this for a few minutes together to raise that heat. And if your mind wanders, bring it back into your physical experience. And then I will lead you a little poem and a prompt to have you. Okay. Okay. Take a nice long deep breath first. Close your eyes. Let's do a few natural breaths for a moment together. And then let's go into breath of fire. You can put your hand on your navel center and then just do that rapid diaphragmatic breathing. Stay with it. And for the last minute, just bring your arms above your head, 60 degrees, hands in a kind of thumbs up position. Building that heat, building that energy, that strength. This is very strengthening for the core. And then inhale and bring your arms together, your thumbs touching above your head. Suspend the breath. Reach up high. If you feel like you want to breathe out, breathe in a little more. And when you can't hold the breath anymore, big exhale. Make that nice big arc. I'm going to read you a short poem and then I'm going to give you a prompt. My throat. My throat is a fire, is a line of birds waiting to rise up from still water, is the earth, dark and heavy with spring rain, is the air as the mist lifts, sighing, ready to let go. So my prompt for you is simply, what do you wish? What do you vision for your writing? What is your why and what is your what? What is propelling you forward? And allow yourself to feel it. It can be very elemental, a basic need to be seen that wasn't met as a child. It can be spiritual, a desire to sing to God. It can be very particular, to write a book. Allow yourself to be big and live into your own largeness. And if you don't know, if nothing comes to mind, don't worry. Stay with it and be patient. Maybe what you're imagining is very tiny now. Just be curious. Something called you to this this hour to set intentions together. So get out of that analytical mind and just write whatever comes to you, even if it's a series of questions. And as you write, stay connected to your breath and your body.
Is late joining. Is there something in the chat that I can know what?
Yeah, I'm gonna.
Okay. And don't forget to breathe as you're writing. We're going to take one more minute here, and then I'm going to give you a continuation of this prompt.
So we're going to come back to this in a moment. If you had a hard time knowing what it was you wanted, don't worry. Sometimes posing the question is the most important thing, and some answer will come to you later today or next week or next month even. It's about posing the question and being patient. Often when there's resistance also, it's when there's the most opportunity for growth. When there's kind of that tension, there's that heat, there's a lot there. So just be curious and see what it is. We're going to do something a little bit more granular later, but I wanted to stay with the big visioning first. So my invitation to you next is to read back to yourself what it is that you wrote. And as you're reading, or if you're in a place where you can say it aloud, read it aloud to yourself. And allow yourself to really hear it and notice what that feels like. That's step one. And then step two is imagine a year from now, what will it feel like? What will you have done? Really imagine yourself in that place of having done these things that you're setting forth as your intentions. So take a moment there to do that. So these questions can seem elemental, but it can also be very emotional to actually take the time and do this. As some of you have said in the chat, a shiver from my neck down my spine, and reading it has made you cry, right? Like sometimes we're just rushing, 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 and not really taking the time to really be with our intentions. And again, if you're not sure what they are, or if you feel like there's too much and it's hard to prioritize, we're going to get to that next part later. But I think the important thing is slowing down and bringing the body with yourself so that you take time to set a path. And I read recently that our body digests our food better if we take a breath before we eat. So that practice of gratitude or prayer before eating is actually has a kind of medically proven scientific benefit for our bodies, that we know like how to absorb the nutrients from the food better when we do that. So think of it this way, like we are preparing the body, the creative vessel for what is going to come so we can absorb our practices and give forth, right? Everything is going to be more kind of whole, and better absorbed and better digested and better delivered. So the next part of this, though, is we have the big vision, or we have the questions about the big vision, and then how do we actually make it come about? So I want to go into some specifics of what does it look like in your own life? Where do you find, not find, but take time for your practices? And many of you have signed up already for next week's 7-day meditation and writing challenge, which I'm really excited to be with you. And because that's also, I'm doing this partly to prepare for that so that we can set the ground for a practice that supports us in 2024. And it doesn't need to take a lot of time, right? Many of you have done my meditation writing challenges before. Just 15 minutes can be really powerful if we integrate it into our life. And so we find what time of day, how does it fit with other things that you're doing. My husband has plantar fasciitis, and so he has to do these exercises for his foot, and he would always forget to do them, and now he does them when he brushes his teeth. It's like taking your writing practice and integrating it in with something you're already doing, maybe a meditation practice, maybe a moment in your day, you kind of, or to integrate it in with, this is important because it's related to my relationships with people I love, or it's related to my work. Sharing something, I saw some of you writing about, like sharing mental health solutions, right? Things that are part of your life that you can integrate. So if you felt like, some of you said you had so many different things, it's hard to prioritize. What I want to do for this next practice, I'm going to lead you through a meditation first, but is to give you some time to really prioritize, to maybe get out your schedule and say, what's realistic? When can I do this? Is this going to be every day? Is it going to be once a week? And what do I want to start with? So if you have the plan to write a book, what can you do in the next 2 months to start on that plan? Do you have an outline? What's the first step towards that bigger vision that you can act on? And again, not what can you do for the whole year, but what's the first step that you can do for the next 2 months that you can put that in. Again, I'll tell you more about some of the practices that I'll offer. And if you're coming through the challenge I'm doing next week, that can help you. If you haven't registered for that, I can tell you more about that later. Okay, so I'm going to lead you through another meditation so that you can prepare yourself for this next part. So this time we're going to breathe in for a count of 4, and then breathe out for a count of 8. If that's uncomfortable, you can breathe in for a count of 3 and out for a count of 6. But you want to breathe in and out so that this is a very calming meditation. We want to be writing from a place of stability and calm, not from that place of anxiety. So finding that place and resetting your nervous system. Go at your own pace. In for 4, out for 8, or 3 and 6. And when you're ready, I invite you to go into those specifics. Often it can feel overwhelming when we just sit down to write, but if we give it time to be intentional about it, often we're very wise and we know exactly where we need to start. So, what's that next step that you want to take? You might want to get out your calendar. Be as specific as possible. If you don't know, write your questions down too, and there'll be time for question and answer in a little while. Okay, let's have one more minute here and we'll come back together. So I want to remind you that if you went blank or if you had questions, that can be as helpful or as having those big visions. It leads you to your own next step, right? You can have to be where you are and go from there. So if you wrote something that seems really important to you, I encourage you to pin it up for yourself so you can come back to it. And I will just tell you a little bit about some of the things that I'm offering. And then I really want to get to your questions because I saw a lot of questions in the chat. Um, and I really want to help guide you, So how do you both have the big vision, know what it is, and get granular and start working on it? And at the same time, so first what I want to do though is to kind of close out this part of the session is I want to read you one more poem as a kind of like benediction. These poems are from my new book, I Say the Sky, and I hope you'll enjoy it. I'm thinking of it as an offering to you. Really allow yourself to feel it and to think of it as I said, a kind of benediction or blessing for your own writing and your own creative practice. The poem is called Invocation. And I'm going to change one word in it. The first two lines are sleep like a golden rain, fall through me. I'm going to change it to fall through you. Okay? So, invocation. Sleep like a golden rain, fall through you. Hard earth that resists the shovel's metal blade, yield. Buried seed, grow plump. Split. Push out your extravagant green tendril, reaching for the sun. So allow yourself to imagine yourself as that little seed buried in the earth, reaching up through the earth when the time is right and growing towards the sun. Just see what that feels like in your own body or whatever it is that you want to be growing towards. And again, I'm just going to tell you a little bit about what's upcoming. So next week, starting on Wednesday, I have my 7-day meditation and writing challenge. And that is going to be each day for 7 days, I'll send out a 15-minute recording that you can practice with at your own time. Many of you are already registered for that. And this is to help you get ready for that, right? Like, it's going to lead you through a practice where we're going to be rooting down and reaching up. It will lead you through different writing prompts. And then once you enroll, you'll have those 7 meditation writing practices that you can work with again. And I'm also opening up, and if you haven't registered for that, Katie just put in the chat, thank you, Katie, so much, how you can find the meditation and writing practice if you want to do that next week. And I'll also send an email with that. And then I'm also opening up my longer 31 plus day course, meditation and writing course, Right from Your Center, which has a lifetime practice of meditation and writing prompts. So this is a really nice way. If you're like not sure what you want, this practice helps you ask those questions. What do you want for your creative life? And gives you a really nice onboarding way to get into that creativity. You just saw a tiny bit of it here. We didn't do really a deep meditation and writing prompt. It was more setting intentions. But my experience has been that when we meditate before we write, all new kinds of possibilities open, and that it's very experiential. I could talk about it a lot, but it's really through doing it yourself that you see what this practice opens up for you. So there's a little taste of that next week, and then this longer course, which is on sale now. It's only open for a few times a year for sale, but it has a big 40% discount. And then if you also do the 7-day challenge, I'll just reduce that price from the course as well. So you can see more about that. I'll send out an email about it, but it's a really nice way to continue with your own practices and have a really steady, aligned writing practice for 2024. So would love to, I saw a lot of questions. If you've already done the course, you have lifetime access, so you can just go ahead and do it again with new people coming through. But I would love to answer your questions because I saw a lot of questions in the chat about your own writing, and I would love to use this time now to go back to some of those. So if you have a question, I ask you to please write it again in the chat, or if you want, you can raise your Zoom hand and I'll call on you and you can ask the question. Or likewise, if you have just something that you want to comment on, something that you notice, something that you want to share, I would love to hear that. So the 30-day challenge is not the same as the I Say the Sky challenge. They're two different ones. The I Say the Sky is just 7 days, and the 31-day is a much more robust program with 31 days. It also comes with a 3-part kind of teaching about how to bring meditation and creativity together with different forms of meditation. It comes with a bonus to bring that into a full year-long practice if you want. So I think thank you so much, Katie. There are two different links you can see about them. And if you are already in the 31-day, if you're already in the 31-day class, you have that. But if you are already signed up for next week's challenge, I'm going to email you so you can basically deduct the price of the challenge from the 31-day course if you're not already enrolled in that. And I'll email you a separate link. So if you want to do both, sign up for the next week's challenge first, and then you can do the other two with that discounted link. So some of the questions that I saw, why so many women turn up on these calls to write? It's partly who's on my list to see. It's partly I have some classes that are only for women, so I do tend to my list tends to be women heavy because I've seen so often when women share our authentic stories, there are things that are a little bit vulnerable. And especially because we're doing this online, I like to create spaces that are very, very safe. Everything that I'm talking about now is open to people of women, men, everybody. But yeah, about strategies for overcoming self-judgment during writing, and also as a result of not staying on track with writing goals. Being consistent can be a challenge, and how do you, they get up in self-judgment about that. So this is one of the reasons why I find meditating and writing can be really helpful together. So the consistency is, again, like with any practice, it's when we meditate, our mind will leave our meditation practice and then we come back. So I think the practice of writing is similar. We are going to leave the practice and then we're going to come back. I think people say that also like in couples therapy, relation therapy, like any relationship will have challenges, will have ruptures. It's about being able to come back and repair. So the practice is not, can you always be consistent? But when you kind of fall off, do you have ways to come back without that self-judgment? So it's partly that mindset. Oh, this is natural. We're not machines. And so instead of beating yourself up saying, oh, what's wrong with me? Why did I fall off? Why didn't I continue to do that? Oh, look at me. I'm so proud of myself. I'm coming back. Does that maybe help a little bit, Emily? And at the same time, having a community, having supports, having a practice, having, some of my recordings that you can listen to, that you can just hit play to get you going. Even though I'm a yoga teacher, I very often listen to a recording when I do my yoga practice because it helps me hold those positions longer. I don't need to be in that decision-making mindset. As writers, as people in our busy world, we're making a lot of decisions. If we can take some of that decision making out of our practice so that we can just be in the practice, it can be very helpful. So to have someone else who's kind of guiding you, who's offering some structure and support, can be really, really helpful. Um,
Thank you.
yes. um, if Gwen, could you send me an email and I'll send everyone a link also who's signed up for this. Do I have an opinion about using PT or other language models as prompts, ideas, etc.? I have to admit that I have not used them, and I have very strong feelings that this is not a good like direction for humanity to go in. But I know it's here. But I think that um, there are, you know, if you have a tool and it works for you, great. I don't, yeah. But I think that, I guess one of my, the small thing I want to say about Chat GPT or about the kind of direction that I think our whole society is going into is this, is to see everything in terms of a product and everything in terms of like its efficiency and what the kind of outcome is. And things are not being done for the pleasure and the presence of doing them in and of itself. And so I think writing can be a place to take back. This is between us and us. This is between and also, speaking of chat GTP, but this is not just about the mind, about the whole physical body spiritual experience that no computer will have, in my opinion. Um, so again, if it's a helpful tool to use, do whatever you want. But I think we, as a society, sometimes lose track of the end reason we do things is for the doing, not for the kind of efficient outcome. So, um, let me just see what other questions. So many. Um, I can share the poems, and they're also in my book if you're interested. Let's see, are there other questions? Um, so someone wrote, Lisa, you wrote, you're totally stopped in your tracks and you don't know what you want. I was in a session. I sometimes do work with a craniosacral myofascial therapist who's really wonderful. And she was doing this session with me and she was like, what do you want? What's your big vision for what you want? And in that moment, I had no idea. Even though I do this work and I help people with their visions, I had this just, I don't know. I actually don't know. And she was kind of manipulating my body, and there were all these kind of things, old patterns in my fascia. And I didn't know throughout that whole session. But then after that session, new things started to open up for me, new ideas about what really fed me. And a lot of it was like getting closer to the earth and um, being connected and offering practices for people to actually vision what they want. So that place of stalledness can be very helpful. Like, not to be like, maybe I don't just want what I always thought I wanted. Maybe there's something new coming. And to be comfortable with that not knowing and just to sit with it. Annie, can you unmute yourself?
Yeah, yeah, that was so fast. Wasn't coordinated. I'd like to share a story. Uh, I have not been able to get on the iCloud for like 10 days, and I have two manuscripts, and I have to wait 2 more weeks. And I just want to say that it's been quite amazing. I'm a meditator too. I've stayed writing and hasn't stopped me. And I had two meltdowns in the Apple store. where I was so distressed when they told me that I couldn't get onto the cloud that I like swore out loud and I just wanted to share that it all passed and I realized it's okay. I've emailed a lot of friends my poems. I'm going to get eventually, I pray, like it's retrievable. It's not the end of the world. And it's been a wild thing. And I just want to say that, I'm a meditator. And the more that I devote time to quieting the chatter, the more spontaneous flow occurs. And I look forward to joining you. This is my first time. I'm thrilled. And I just had to share that story.
Thank you. That's also as a writer who stores everything now in Google Docs because I think it's safer. It's good to know to back things up. But also, that attachment. I mean, there's something so interesting about writing because everything is passing, right? We can't really hold on to anything. But writing is a way of holding on to something, making it permanent. So that playing with, like, oh, it's there, but I can't reach it now, that vulnerability and ephemerality of everything of life. Thank you for sharing that. And I hope you get them soon. Yeah.
It's okay. Eventually I've written a ton of new stuff and thank you.
Yeah. Um, Hi, Joy. Nice to see you.
Hi. As I was writing, I was thinking that one of the things that would be helpful for me was at the end of a writing session, to look at the tasks for the next time. But I wonder if that takes away the spontaneity of it, or that's a good idea, just so that I have this like thread, because I want to write, I want to revise, I want, like there's some different things. I want to put my poetry book together. So how do I do all of that in the time I have for writing? And do you think that's a good idea to like create the tasks for the next session?
Yeah, I think that could be a very good idea. I also think it's helpful to go into sessions with different kind of tasks. So if you're like, this session is for working on my book, this session is for, writing something new. So you go in and you have, again, taking some of the decision making out and being able to be focused because we're so distracted by so many different tasks in most of contemporary life. Um, Hemingway famously would, when he started a writing session, he would go back and read everything in his book up until that point, so that's pretty time consuming. He had a lot of time to write. So there are probably ways that you can kind of like write yourself a little note, like, this is what I want to do next, if you don't have time to read it all. So I think, leaving yourself some breadcrumbs for the next session can be really helpful. It's definitely a good idea. Yeah.
Great session today. Thank you.
Thank you. And I saw earlier someone was asking about, what do you do? Do you write a book, an essay? I always say if you have two projects you don't know, you have something big like a book, start small. Start with the foundation and build up. Instead of, it's great to vision the big thing. I want to do that visioning with you. But then you have to start on the ground where you are. So start with the smaller pieces to build that bigger piece. Um, um, So thank you for saying nice things about my book. That means so much to me. I see a few more hands. JL.
So I am definitely one of the people that is scattered all over the place. So I'm working on a novel. I'm working on two children's books, and I'm writing two poetry collections all at the same time. Plus, I'm published. I've published previously, and so I'm having to market what I have out. And so that's plus I'm teaching classes. So I'm trying to figure out how to organize and juggle all that stuff and not get overwhelmed.
That's exciting. Congratulations.
Thank you.
And does that work for you? Or I find I sometimes do better if I work on one project at a time and then I have an energy for the next, or two at the most at a time.
Well,
At least
I actually prefer having working in different genres because sometimes I get too hyper focused on a genre and I get too nitpicky about perfection, and that's what freezes me up. And so by working on like fiction, I can say, okay, I need to write this story out, and then this uh this poem might be a story, but it is the I'm using all of the devices that I need to use to make sure that it's a good poem.
Yeah. Yeah, I like that. I mean, I think especially if you're working in different genres and they're kind of like feeding different parts, or then you have an idea and then you decide, well, what genre does it fit into? I always tell people, it's great to have the tools of working in different genres because you have an idea, it's not clear what form it wants to come out in. Let the piece itself teach you what form it wants to take instead of you're imposing it on it. So, are there specific ways in which, I mean, it sounds like you're doing pretty well, but are there specific ways in which, like, you have questions that I might be able to suggest?
Well, so ultimately, when I wrote my list of things I want to do, is I want to do it all, right? And I just opened my own business last year, and so it's like I made sure that I'm working in an area that supports my business and moving me forward in my writing business. And so, at least I've taken away some of the extraneous stuff out there, and I'm starting to focus it, but I think I need to hyper focus it a little bit more even.
Yeah. And, there's the kind of 80-20 rule, which is that, 20% of what we do is really effective usually. And then like the other 80%, not so much. To just kind of try to find what are those things that are most effective, and focus your energy there. But again, I know I'm using the language of effective, but what most feeds you, right? Like what most feeds you in the ways that you want to be and need to be fed. So if that's financial, but also spiritually, or in terms of what you want to be doing, and kind of have that.
That's a great question for me to take into meditation. Thank you.
Thank you. I'm going to take two more questions. It's almost 4, and I know people have to go, so I'll take 2 more questions. I just want to say I'll send you a follow-up email. I think, Katie, thank you for putting some links in the chat. If it's not clear, just my 7-day meditation and writing challenge is coming up next week, and that costs $30. But if you buy a copy of my book, which costs $20, I will waive the fee for you, and you can see how to do that on the link. So basically, for the cost of the book, you get a book, which I hope you'll enjoy, and you also get this pretty in-depth practice. And then the following week, I'm going to be starting, but you can buy it now, this longer, lifelong program of meditation and writing prompts right from your center that normally costs $300. I'm doing a 40% discount, so it costs $170. But if you also do the 7-day program, I'll just discount that price from the larger program. So it's just kind of like, I want to support you, and I want to just keep on step by step helping you grow. Like just what we did in this practice. What's the big vision? What are the steps along the way? And sharing my own writing journey, my own writing. And a lot of my philosophy is really in my poetry book. I think of my book as poems, almost like a personal philosophy, personal worldview. So that also sharing that as a kind of guide. So I'll send an email out because there'll be some links. If you do the 7-day challenge, I'll have a link for you where you can do the longer course just through that. So you get that extra discount. Okay. Now to your questions. Jude. Do you want to unmute yourself?
Oh yeah, I was muted. Oh,
Hi.
okay. Thank you very much, Nadia. This was great to be part of this session. I learned a lot. I have already published a book. It was political about my dad, and I put it out already on Amazon. And I followed some of your earlier classes that you offered. I spoke to you over the phone about a year ago when I got in touch with you, and you gave me some encouragement. And I was working on this book,
Oh,
and I
great.
said, okay,
Congratulations.
this book has to go out, and it went out. And what happened? I had a series of different titles, like the former speaker who was online here. I'm into politics, but I'm into memoirs. I'm into autobiographies. I have a lot of my desk is full with a lot of piles, and I'm taking it one at a time. And I'm a mental health clinician, so I juggle between clinical work and writing as my hobby, something I enjoy. And thank you so much for this input. I think part of what I'm taking out today is taking care of myself, making sure that I have time for myself to do some reflexing, yoga, uh, personal time to reflect on what I'm doing and focus on it. So thank you so much. This was
Thank
very
you.
good.
It's so nice to see your face. And thank you for sharing
Thank
your
you.
accomplishment. I love that. A year ago, right? Because one of the questions is, what are you going to have next year? So you've done that. And I also want to say that in many of my programs, there's a community space. And that's a really just, this is such a rich, rich community. So places where, people can share links to your work, to there. We have a lot of mental health therapists, workers, clinicians in the community, also bringing together writing and other forms, visual artists, just people with meditators, lots of different backgrounds, and it's a nice way for different people to connect with one another. So thank you. Sherry. Oh, but I still can't hear you for some reason. It looks like you're unmuted, but I don't know what's going on. Can you put your question in the chat and then I'll come back to it? I'm going to ask Janet and then I'll come back to your question in the chat. Thank you. Technology can be mysterious. Hi, Janet.
So I noticed a few people in the chat wrote that they love your poem about the shortest night. So I'm wondering if you would possibly read that because it has piqued my interest.
I should have a copy of my book here, but I don't.
Does anybody have a copy of your book there?
Thank you all for your interest in the poem. I do think it's on my website, but
oh yeah, somebody just put it in the
chat.
Okay, thank you.
oh, I can read it. Thank you, Katie. You're awesome.
I love solstice poems.
On the shortest day of the year.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you.
Or against despair. Even if there is only the smallest door, made of stone, with no handle, bend low, put all your weight into it. It opens onto the wide expanse of where you've never been, groundless, blue, and untranslatable. And there, just at the edge of your vision, a single purple flower rooting down.
Mm. Nice.
Yeah.
Reminds me of Robert Frost.
Thank you.
Thank you. It's been
Thank
great.
you, Sherry. And you can read more. I actually, the way I put my book together, like the poems stand on their own, but I think that they work better in relation to all the other poems in the book because there's so many images that come again and again, the stones, the flowers, the sky, and it is kind of building an argument, and not an argument, but a philosophy. And it's a journey of transmutation and transformation. So the same words can kind of take on different resonances at different points in the book. It's a book very much about like a cyclical journey of coming back to the same place, but looping around and seeing it from a different space, and that kind of cyclical spiral staircase of time. Sherry, did you get a chance to write your question in the chat? Let me just see. I don't see it. So, okay, I really am going to just take these next two questions and then we will close out. So Pooja, and then I saw another hand, but it just disappeared. But if you wanted to. Well, actually, let me answer. My question is how to tie up your adventure into a theme. I've had many incarnations in my long lifetime. How can I tie it together? That's really interesting. And I wonder, and I wonder if that's really related a little bit to what I just said about, the journey of the book. If it's a journey of transformation, if it's a journey of change, if change itself of the different incarnations itself is the theme, I would actually say maybe meditate on it and see what feels right to you. But I think that's a really deep question. How do we put together a theme for our life? And the more kind of experiences we've had, the more it can feel difficult to come up with a theme, but so very rewarding to do that. So partly in these challenges, the prompts that I ask help you see those patterns, help you see your own, go back to those own important points in your life and see how they fit together. So, but thank you for that question. And I hope that's a helpful answer. Okay, Pooja.
Hello, Nadia, and hello, everyone. I'm sorry I'm not able to show my face because, my computer has some issues right now. So, yeah, basically, first of all, I must thank you for all the sessions that I've attended with you. I think I've really always taken a lot from those sessions, a lot of inspiration and a lot of stories that I've written after attending each of your sessions. So those have been really enriching for me. So I must thank you to begin with.
You're welcome. I'm so glad. Thank you for letting me know.
Secondly, thank you. And secondly, I feel that I have a story within me for many, many years. And it's always been the same pattern that whenever I start to write about it, I'm just not able to write about it. I just get stuck in a rut and I'm not able to bring myself out of it. I don't know why. I just don't know why, and it's kind of frustrating me because I don't know. I mean, this is very frustrating because I'm not able to write that story.
Is the material difficult, Pooja? Is it kind of triggering in some ways to go into that material? Do you think that's partly what's going on, or do you think it's something else?
Maybe it is triggering. I don't know. I mean, it's a piece of fiction, but I feel that maybe somewhere those emotions that the protagonist is going through, they're kind of affecting me, and I'm not able to really bring it out in the world, and I'm getting into a writer's block, which I'm usually not into, and to divert myself, I've started reading some books right now, but and I'm thinking of restarting my journey from next Monday. But I feel that I really hope that I don't get stuck in a rut again.
Yeah.
So
well, Lisa suggested maybe
I don't know how to.
Yeah, they often record things instead of writing them down. I do think that can be very helpful sometimes if you find yourself in a rut to go for a walk, take your phone or recording device and speak into it and see if you can move your body and move through it. Because do it as if you were talking instead of writing. That can often break the rut. And then often to just kind of do it as stream of consciousness. You remember when we were in school, I don't know if you did this, but I remember like I'd have those little blue books and you'd have a test and you'd have to just, okay, you have to write an essay. Here's a blue book and you've got an hour to write this essay. And you just go, blah, 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 and then your hand's tired. Kind of set yourself that task so you don't have the perfectionist mind. And you just kind of gotta get it down, especially because if it's been kind of weighing on you, say, okay, I'm gonna just do it, a really crappy first draft, in 1 hour, and even maybe go to the store and buy yourself one of those little cheap notebooks, or, you know, take some paper and staple it together so it looks like that, and set a timer for yourself and do it. So those are some suggestions that might help. And let me know how it goes.
Sure, I will definitely.
The other thing is, you know, to kind of make a boundary around it that's helpful with those blue books too. You know, I'm going to take an hour and that's it. And then give yourself a little break. Give yourself a little treat beforehand, and then give yourself a little treat after. And then come back to it later. Okay. Yeah. Okay. I am not sticking with.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. I am not sticking with my own boundaries here. But I did see, Lisa, I saw your face before, so yeah. This is the last question, okay, with apologies to everyone else. But come join me in my other offerings. I'm going to be doing a lot of readings from my books as well. A lot of those are free and online. Come meet me there. I want to talk to you all and support your writing and talk about, you know, my experiences as a writer, but also as a teacher. And I look forward to continuing the conversation in many different ways. Okay, so Lisa.
Well, it's not quite a question. I've done both the shorter of your courses, and I'm, excuse me, I'm doing the 31-day now, and it's wonderful and very stimulating in all the right ways, and not teaching, just stimulating the flow of juices. I put that thing up about recording because I do a lot of, I've got a series of children's books about to come out, and I do a lot of writing with recording, much better than I do with a pen in my hand. I'm also a teacher of meditation, and I do my meditations, you know, free form. I can't write them. And I just discovered that. So people might find that very helpful to just record. And you can use a system like Otter where it changes your voice to print. So not really a question, but thank you very much, because I'm really loving the whole thing.
So nice to put a name and a face together, and thank you for sharing your experience. That's great to know.
It's
and
lovely.
I'll put Otter in the chat also, which is I've also been using that and telling students and friends. It's a really interesting way, you know, again, to move your body, to get out of those ruts, to have that more embodied experience. Because, you know, again, going back to what we said about being creative people, I've read that 80% of the time after dark, when people were awake, would be spent around a fire, sharing stories, dancing, singing, for most of humanity. And so having writing as this solitary act where we're just sitting in our desk, kind of hunched over with our pen and paper, our computer, that we do alone, isn't actually what we've been evolved to do. We've been evolved to share stories, to talk, to use our voice, to use our body. And if we can, you know, get back into that. It's interesting also as a children's writer, right? Like that you can imagine like speaking, I would imagine, to children, right? Like, so imagine also, Pooja, this might be helpful for you or for anyone who feels a little blocked. Imagine someone that you're addressing. You know, who do you want to be telling this story to? And sometimes that can be helpful. You can even get a photograph. It can be a photograph of someone you know. It can be a photograph of someone you don't know, and make it into a kind of conversation. So thank you all so much for being part of this conversation today. Thank you for the comments in the chat. Thank you for your comments, you know, when you unmuted yourself. You know where to reach me. You can send me emails. I will send a follow-up email to you all. And I look forward to continuing to be with you. I look forward to seeing what you do in 2024. What is this? 2024. And let's take one more breath together. And take a moment to go back to your intentions so that you carry them with you into the rest of the day, the next few months, and the year. Be very, very well. Thank you. Bye-bye.